Greetings everyone, I am Dr. Wolf, and I just saw Uprooted. First Young Six episode of the final season, and yeah, it actually touches on a few things I was hoping to see. And yet it actually takes away a few things I was hoping to see as well. But we'll get to that. First off, the episode begins with each of them going through their own personal nightmares. Now, this is kind of a retreading of what lies beneath, except that only for about half of them. I mean, you do get a bit of, say, Gallus dealing with his claustrophobia, and you do get a bit of, say, Smolder in her pretty dress sipping tea. And then for some reason, you have Sandbar. His version of a nightmare is choosing between cupcakes, which is the most delicious looking. I'm glad that Smolder points out how weird that is. However, we have a visit from the spirit of the Tree of Harmony, who is trying to tell them there is great danger, you must come immediately. And what I thought was going to happen is that the Young Six would go back to the School of Friendship, they'd find their way underneath the school because that's where the spirit was before, and find out that way that the Tree of Harmony still exists because that's where the roots are. That would make the most sense, right? Instead, they go to see where the Tree of Harmony has been destroyed and don't ever think to go back to the school, even though that's where they first saw the spirit. So that was a little confusing, but okay, if that's where the story wants to go, what's the plan now? It's pretty apparent that the writers didn't quite know how to fill out the time in this episode, because aside from spending a good minute or two showing each of the Young Six trying to get permission slips signed, and you get a couple of fun moments in that. Like, for example, Smolder has to win an arm wrestling contest. I thought that was fun. But as soon as they get back to the cave where the Tree of Harmony is, and it quickly devolves into each of them have their own idea on how they're going to remember the Tree of Harmony, create their own memorials, per se. And it immediately breaks down into petty arguments. Okay, I guess that's kind of a story, except we've kind of gone over this in many different ways throughout the series before, just not with the Young Six just yet. So I could see where the story was going very early on, and it provided very few surprises along the way. But okay, I can get behind this because, hey, there were a couple of fun moments within these ideas. Gallus in particular, you'd think that he had been getting lessons from Flim and Flam, given that he's making up stories in order to entice potential customers, per se. And yet when you think about it, if he comes from Griffin culture, who are all about getting as many bits as possible and don't really care about anyone else, I suddenly thought, wait a second, I wonder if Flim and Flam were the ones who got lessons from Griffins. Somebody write a fan fiction about that, because that would make a lot of sense. I will say that I was pleased that Yona is the one out of all of the Young Six who from the very beginning can tell we need to stop arguing, we need to work together. She is, of course, best Young Six. Yeah, I said that. She is easily the most interesting out of all the Young Six, and consistently the most funny in my opinion. However, the episode spends a lot of time going over each of the Young Six's ideas, which can be pretty on occasion, like with Silverstream and her various colors, that was nice. And then seeing Ocellus, find your center. We only need to have positive energy. Again, reflecting the changeling culture, I wonder. But yeah, a lot of what was going on in this episode, I was kind of just waiting for something to happen, waiting for something to surprise me, occasionally getting a good joke, but yeah, most of the episode felt kind of middle of the road. It wasn't until, hey, the Young Six actually get a song of their own, that's nice, and hey, it's actually the first song of the final season, so that makes it a little more memorable. And then they create an actual tree house out of the remnants of the Tree of Harmony. I did not see that coming. And what's more, the Tree of Harmony accepts their friendship, of course, but then grows into an actual treehouse, like much bigger than anything that they were planning. And it grows into the castle of the two sisters. So I wonder how much of the castle is actually left after something like that happened. Now, the spirit of the Tree of Harmony specifically says whenever you're needing solace, this place will provide safety, something to that effect. So I'd be willing to bet that this is building up something that will be called back on later in the season. So yeah, it's actually bringing up a bit of story potential in that respect. And then having Twilight say, I guess the elements are going to stay in Equestria in their own way, will never quite leave. Again, it could have story potential later on. I don't know exactly how this will integrate with the much bigger story arc, like say with Grogar and his League of Evil, or Legion of Doom as I've come to call it. On the other hand, I wonder if actually recreating the tree, reintroducing the elements in some fashion, actually takes away some of the tension that was really built up in the season premiere. And I'm kind of going back and forth. There could be a lot of story potential with the tree existing in a new form, and obviously the Young Six most likely taking on the roles of the elements, because in the dream, the spirit of the Tree of Harmony bestowed upon each of them a different color that really does look like it's reflecting the elements. So yeah, I could see that working quite well. On the other hand, if there is no Tree of Harmony, if there are no elements, if it really is depending on Twilight and the rest of the main six and Spike, say, to protect Equestria from what looks to be the greatest threat that has yet to be shown in the show, I think it actually would have been a better setup for suspense and tension later on. On the one hand, having the tree back in this form gives the Young Six something to do. And yeah, if it didn't come back, what could the Young Six do when this great conflict arrives? On the other hand, I don't know, maybe I'd be more interested in the story in the long term if there was no tree, if there were no elements. Because in the past, the elements have saved the day so many times because of friendship beams, and I like the idea that they weren't part of solving any problems anymore. That's kind of what happened during season 4 after all. At least until they reintroduced rainbow power and then never brought it up again. So who knows? I kinda like what they were setting up in Uprooted, and yet I'm kinda thinking you might have taken away something more interesting by introducing this concept. But I don't know. Much of the episode felt kind of middle of the road. I was chuckling a few times at some of the more outlandish moments of the Young Six, but much of the time I was kind of just waiting for something to happen. Going through the motions of, you know they're going to be arguing, you know that they're going to have their fight, you know that they're going to get back together towards the end, and yeah, I'm still glad that Yona is the one who had the right idea to begin with. But, yeah, I don't know if I'd call this a great episode by any means. It felt a lot like filler, for the most part. Having the tree coming back in this new form does provide some story potential for later. But other than that, I can't think of a single reason why I'd go back and watch Uprooted again. But hey, maybe I'm in the minority here. Maybe there is something more that really draws a crowd in. What do you think though? Given what we've seen of the Young Six thus far, and given the very likely prospect that they will be named as the new Elements of Harmony at some point before the show's end, do you think this is a good setup for what may eventually come? Particularly with how the tree is in this new form. Or would it be better for the long-term conflict, the suspense, the tension, if there just was no tree? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Because as always, I am Dr. Wolf, and I look forward to hearing from you.